One morning in July 1518, a woman walked out into a street in Strasbourg and started dancing. No music, no festival, no reason anyone could see, just a woman, alone, moving in the summer heat like something inside her had switched on and couldn't switch off. People probably stared, maybe laughed, then went back to their day, because what are you going to do, stand there forever? Except she didn't stop. She danced through the afternoon. She danced through the night. By the next morning, she was still going, feet bleeding, eyes open, body moving. She danced for 6 days straight. And then, on day 7, something worse happened. 34 people joined her. Not because they wanted to, not because there was a party. They just started dancing in the street and couldn't stop either. And over the following weeks, more came, and more, until there were 400 people dancing through the streets of Strasbourg, some of them dying from exhaustion, from heart failure, from their bodies simply giving out. And nobody, not the doctors, not the city council, not the priests, could explain what was happening or make it stop. This is a real event. It is in the historical record, city documents, physicians' notes, church accounts. It happened exactly the way I just described it, and nobody has fully explained it since. So let's back up, because to understand what happened in Strasbourg, you need to understand what Strasbourg was like in 1518, and the answer is not great. There was a famine, crops had failed, there was flooding, there was a syphilis epidemic spreading across Europe, smallpox, political oppression from the Holy Roman Empire. Basically every bad thing you can have, they had it, all at once, simultaneously. The people of Strasbourg were living in what I can only describe as a real-life difficulty setting cranked to maximum. And then, on top of all of this, they had a specific religious belief that I think is crucial. They genuinely believed that a saint named Saint Vitus could curse people with uncontrollable dancing, not metaphorically, literally. If Saint Vitus decided you were doing something wrong, he could make your body start dancing and refuse to stop. This was as real to them as anything else in the world. So when Frau Troffea walked into that street in July, she wasn't just a stressed person having a breakdown. She was a person living inside a belief system where this specific thing could happen. Her brain, under unbearable pressure, found the one exit that her world had already told her existed. A historian named John Waller spent years in the archives studying this. His book is literally called A Time to Dance, A Time to Die. He came out of it with one central conclusion. These people were not weak, they were crushed. Now here is the part where the city's response becomes one of my favorite examples of humans being completely wrong in a very confident way. The city council convened. They consulted physicians. The physicians looked at the situation, thought about it carefully, and concluded hot blood. The dancers had too much hot blood, and the cure, obviously, was to dance it out. More dancing. Dance until the hot blood is exhausted. So the city built a stage. They hired professional musicians. They brought in actual professional dancers to dance alongside the afflicted people. They were essentially saying, you know what this uncontrollable, deadly dancing epidemic needs? More dancing. The number of people dancing immediately went up. I'm not saying the doctors of 1518 were idiots. I'm saying they were doing their best with what they had, which is exactly what we always do, which is maybe the most unsettling part of this entire story, but we'll get there. So what was actually happening? Because clearly, 400 people did not all just decide to dance. There are 3 main theories, and this is where it gets interesting. Theory 1. The bread was poisoned. Ergot is a fungus that grows on rye grain. When you eat ergot, you consume compounds that are chemically related to LSD. Yes, the medieval peasants might have been accidentally consuming something that makes you see things, feel things, lose control of your body. The theory is that a contaminated batch of grain made it into the food supply, and the whole city basically ate it. It's a great theory. The problem is, ergot poisoning tends to cause convulsions and muscle spasms, not coordinated rhythmic movement. It also tends to affect whoever ate the bread, regardless of whether they'd seen anyone else dancing. But the dancing plague spread visually. People joined after watching others. The pattern is wrong for food poisoning. Still, poisoned medieval bread, I respect it as a theory. Theory 2, mass psychogenic illness. This one is the leading explanation, and it requires me to explain something that sounds fake, but is completely real. Mass psychogenic illness is when psychological stress spreads through a group and produces genuine physical symptoms in people who never made a conscious choice to have those symptoms. The symptoms are real, the pain is real, the bodies are genuinely affected, but the origin is the mind, not a bacteria, not a virus, nothing you can put under a microscope. And before you think this is a medieval thing that we've grown out of, I want to give you 2 examples from the modern world. In 2006, in Portugal, dozens of students across multiple schools simultaneously developed rashes, dizziness, and difficulty breathing. Doctors investigated for weeks, found nothing. The symptoms had begun spreading after a popular TV show aired an episode where a fictional student experienced a mysterious outbreak. The kids weren't faking, their symptoms were real, their bodies just responded to something their minds believed was happening. In 2011, in a small town in New York called Leroy, 18 teenage girls started developing sudden, uncontrollable tics and verbal outbursts. Twitching, sounds they couldn't control. One by one, over several weeks, more girls were affected. Extensive neurological testing found nothing. The diagnosis eventually was mass psychogenic illness, spreading through a tight social group under stress. This is real. It happens. It happened in Strasbourg. What enables it? A closed community, extreme shared stress, and a belief system that makes specific symptoms feel recognizable and almost expected. In 1518, Strasbourg, the belief in Saint Vitus's curse was exactly that framework. The body found the exit that the culture had already labeled. Theory 3. It was religious, but intentionally so. Some researchers think the dancing began as a form of ecstatic religious practice. Cults dedicated to Saint Vitus were known to incorporate ritual movement. Frau Troffea may have entered a genuine trance state through religious experience, and others conditioned by the same belief may have followed. This theory doesn't contradict Theory 2. Religion was the specific channel through which stress became movement. The dancing lasted roughly a month. It stopped after the city abandoned the more dancing strategy and brought the afflicted on a pilgrimage to a shrine of Saint Vitus in a nearby town. Whether this worked because of the religious meaning of the journey or because removing people from the environment broke the social spread, we don't know. 1518 was not the only time this happened. Similar episodes are recorded in 1237, 1374, 1493. Each time, a community under catastrophic pressure, a shared belief system, and bodies doing things that minds hadn't decided to do. John Waller spent years with those documents. He came out with one conclusion that I think is the most important thing about this entire story. He said the dancers were not irrational, they were not weak, they were people at the absolute edge of what a human being can hold, and their bodies expressed that in the only language their world had given them. Saint Vitus could curse you with dancing, so, under enough pressure, the body danced. Frau Troffea probably did not choose to start. Something chose for her, and 400 people followed, not because they lost their minds, but because human nervous systems are not fully private. Stress moves between people. Fear spreads. The body watches what the bodies around it are doing, and sometimes it follows before the mind has any say in the matter. This is not a medieval problem, it is a human problem. I think about Frau Troffea sometimes. I don't know anything about her, really. I don't know if she was kind, or difficult, or funny. I don't know if she had children. I don't know if she remembered afterward what those 6 days felt like. But I know she was the first, and I know 400 people followed her, and I know that the conditions that made that possible, the crushing weight, the shared fear, the body looking for any door, those conditions are not gone. They never left.
We just don't always notice what we're dancing to.